Aloha, everyone, and Happy New Year. Welcome. My name is Marissa Indigo. I'm here with my lovely friend Julie Dhara Roberts for Gridworkers Chat for January 2021. Woohoo! So, Julie and I were discussing the energies of last year, and we were really wanting to just wait until we could present in the most accurate description using the right words. So much beautiful energy and revelation. And yeah, talking about the revelation waves, I forgot to mention that, Julie, like so much of that. And so we really, we kept trying to come together, and no, it's not the time yet to try to come together again. You were texting, no, not quite yet. And so that's something we wanted to share with you all, is that process of just feeling into the intention together as you weave together. Is this the time to come together and share? Are we still receiving more intel? Like, what's the flow? We're so excited to be with you guys, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Marissa.
Thank you. Mhm.
Great to see your lovely face again and hear your sweet voice.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
think about,
Likewise.
part of our intention for doing this coast to coast grid worker chat, right, is like maybe we should talk about coding and what that really means, like sharing code. Because
Yes.
it's one thing to do grid work. I want to say grid work is like a lonely task, but sometimes it is, right? Like we're in these
Yeah.
pockets of like places and we're all spread out like points of light around the globe. And we don't necessarily have anyone like in our region or in our direct community to share these conversations with. So it's so great to have this like worldwide web of internet and Zoom and all these other, great ways to share intel. But for us, like to exchange, like every time Marissa and I have a conversation and we were having them like off camera, like just normal people conversations, right? It would be like, oh, just like to hear what she's working on sparks things in me. And what I share with her, what she's working on. So like a code exchange is really, our souls coming together and like we each have content, information, stuff in our energy field, stuff that comes out of our mouth. And like when I get to talk to Marissa, it deepens my work and it just like it's like a mirror or feedback loop, right?
Beautiful. Biofeedback live.
Okay.
Well, so Julie was saying some incredible just revelations, if you will. I keep going back to that word. Um, Insights that I would love for you to share, Julie,
Yeah, I
about
know Marissa asked me, she's like, what's been up for you? What have you been
yeah,
working on in December? And I was like, dude,
yeah,
so much.
yeah. It's the best
What
way,
do we
dude.
talk about? So we each like, tuned in and did our little notes of like, what should we talk about today? So mine started, what I wanted to share about today was December for sure has just been this like stellar, light encoded, like completely amazing slash exhausting slash full court press, like everything you got, like all on the field and more. And then like also this incredible like cocoon, quiet, like stay in your own bubble. Like it's this interesting juxtaposition of like all this importing codes and then the like quiet hibernation. So I'd say I've been equally doing both. And maybe you need the quiet hibernation, that deep black galactic space to really receive the light is how like December I would describe. But when I
Absolutely.
went back to figure out what should we talk about to bring through as code exchange today,
Hmm.
I went back to the 12/12 date, like that weekend, December 11th, 12th, 13th. Um, it's cool when you get like, each of us tune in our own way, right? For the day or like what codes are coming in, what light streams are coming in, and then you get your intel. But then when you share things with other people, like one of our mutual friends, Corey, I was talking to, like he got some of that same intel. And it's just like when you get like, or when I talk to Marissa, it's like, oh, like we both heard 12 strand DNA on the 12/12, which is, 12/12. It's not like the only people that were thinking of codes that day. But I had this like 12 strand implies the 13th, but like switching from the 12th strand to the 13th strand. You sometimes hear these things or like in your meditations, you connect with these things, but they don't quite, your like human brain doesn't know what they mean, right? And so
Yeah.
you work on things. So I kind of reteamed some of my Andaras and I had this team that wanted to come together as a 12 strand team. And I had been working with that all fall, but then there was like a 13th piece that wanted to join the team. So anyway, they were all just like kind of sit on my shelf and in the sun. And but that there's something about that preparation for our DNA to receive the energy for the eclipse. So the eclipse was December 14th, and where the sun and moon were in the sky were at the zone of where the galactic center is. So for me, that was a big preparation, like the 12th, December 14th, and then the 18th, 19th, depending where on the planet you are, is when the sun moves into that section of the sky that's like the Milky Way stream. And in one spot of that Milky Way is where the center of the galaxy is. And it's a radio, they call it Sagittarius A with a star. You know, it's like a radio source, or who knows what's at the center of the galaxy. We keep tuning in, right? Is it a black hole? Is it a super sun? Is it a barred spiral of light? But there's been a lot of galactic center coding coming through. And especially when the sun goes to that spot, it's almost like the sun gets plugged back into the galactic center and then recodes and redistributes. So like the galactic center holds the core source codes for the galaxy, and each star, each sun rebroadcasts. It's like a rebroadcast station for that source code. So
this is such an amazing, thank you for this, because as you're sharing this, I'm seeing like that's the deluge. That's the absolute deluge, you know, the sun lining up with that incredible, it's like a womb portal from the galactic center transmitting for us. And hence the like, you know, being inundated with amazing information, but and I call it also pancake.
Yeah, like you're drinking, that people say drinking from a fire hose. You're just getting like code.
Yeah.
Like the flash dance lady.
Oh yeah. Oh
my God.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that like so when the sun lines up, that's why for me, like a lot of people talk about how December is the sacred passage and how it's really encoded with light, which is very interesting because it, at least here, I'm not sure about Southern Cali, but here, like it's getting dark. It was getting dark at like 4:11. By like 5 p.m., it's the darkest it can be. You know, it's like feels like midnight. I'm like, all right, I'm ready for bed. It's like 5:30.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's that like, but you have to like you go into the darkness to receive the light. You know, they work together, right?
Absolutely. It's like the birth of creation.
So yeah, the December when the sun moves into that band of where the Milky Way is in the sky, it's like the galactic center codes are just like really getting rebroadcast. And, you know, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I can akin it to like your Wi-Fi signal in your house, right? You have a main router. Mine's in my basement, but by the time I get to the third floor of my house, the signal's kind of weak. So we have a rebroadcast station, you know, that thing you plug into the wall, like it rebroadcasts. So to me, that's what all the stars do, but they each have their own, you know, playlist or station or musical, like they have their own broadcast. So we receive from Solaris, our sun, but the sun gets like this massive blast or recoding from the galactic center. So I feel like in some ways, the light rays that we're receiving now are like, they're just in that new, some people say new earth, or you can say like new coding, new whatever, like it's like you get these like, but the colors have been changing a little bit for me. The different stuff has been coming through. So, you know, you get that blast in your light body and you just receive it and like down to your cellular DNA level. But then it takes a while to integrate. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, Marissa's saying like when people like need a lot more naps or you do really need to rest to reset for the light body.
What I'm finding
about that because you were
yeah, thank you for that. I wanted to first say I just appreciate so much how beautifully you encapsulate this magnanimous information into, you know, very easy to visualize and to digest the information for everybody. So thank you so much, because that makes it so much more tangible, like the Wi-Fi router, and, you know, it makes it like, oh yes, I know this, you know. So I want to thank you for how well you speak. It's just like, oh, thank you for grounding that for us. And speaking of digestion, so what I was going to say is, you know, for me, this came through. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, as we're receiving all of these light codes, all of these codes, the body has to digest it on several levels before the mind can process it. and share it through the mouth. I mean, that's my experience, is like I'm like, okay, I'm getting hit, wow, and I'm laying there and my eyes are closed, I'm having visuals, all these things. And it takes a while for me to be able to put them into words. Like, what is this? What do I do with this? It takes a while. So I'm seeing this, like, it's like this multidimensional metabolization. And for me, it's interesting because before, old life, old reality, information was digested in the mind, and we kind of were disconnected from the body. But now it's like the opposite. It's like we're embodying the information for the mind to then be able to like quantify it. It's so fun. So it took a long time with everything that came through in November and December. And I would, oh yeah, go
It's
ahead.
flooded by the grand conjunction, the
Oh,
Mercury and Saturn thing. So if you can picture um, the constellation of Sagittarius, it's a centaur. It's like a bull, a guy, like half man, half bull, but like pulling back on a bow.
yeah.
Right? So that bow, the art of the archer of Sagittarius, points to the galactic center.
Mm.
And where Saturn and Jupiter were in the sky was like at the end of that arrow of the
Wow.
bow.
Wow.
So to me, like a friend of mine had asked me back in last January, like, what do you see for people ask, like, because I'm not like really I don't like to forecast.
Yeah.
Like I
Same.
see things, I see what's important to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Like I want to live it and feel it. Like I can't, mentally like project out what the codes are going to feel like, right? I just see like, oh, this is the window to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Walk through it, slide through it. But the Jupiter Saturn situation was happening, like if you picture that archer pulling back on the bow and like the quiver or the arrows, that's not the right word, the feathers at the end of the bow, like way back there when the bow is pulled taut, like that's where Jupiter and Saturn were in the sky when they did their conjunction. So to me, like that whole thing was like creating unity and then like laser beam focus onto the galactic center. So like my December was like all this galactic center-y stuff. And so this is like just a earth plane, how to surf through waves. Oh, cool. A hawk just went right over my
Beautiful.
window.
Beautiful. Blessing. How lovely.
So I just want to tell this little like story of the conjunction. So anyone who knows me knows that I was probably excited to see it in the sky. But then I got this deep inner knowing that it was going to be cloudy. Just like I was like, oh yeah. So December 18th, I went out like for one of my like sightings at sunset because I want to drive to a place where you get a western vista, and I have a lot of trees in my backyard, so I can't see. And I have the spot where I go to, and I was hanging out, and I saw like it was very bright and beautiful, and I could really see like sometimes I feel like my eyes see things in the stars that like I'm not supposed to be able to see, if that makes sense. Like I'm not supposed to without a telescope or binoculars be able to see the moons of Jupiter, right? But I could see them.
Wow.
On the like few days. Like I was like, oh, I see these points of light, and they really drew my attention in the moons. And I saw that for actually like a few months prior when I was looking at things on my Starfinder app. I use Sky Safari.
Okay.
But I was just like, oh, the moons. Like there was one point in time where Jupiter moved closer to Saturn than some of its moons. Like the moons were like overlapping and making these geometries that I was paying attention to. How about that?
How many moons does Jupiter have?
I
Can't
don't
remember.
know.
Okay.
I should know. I'm gonna say 62, but I don't remember.
Wow.
But there's four main ones
Okay.
that I was paying attention to. And
Okay.
Saturn has a lot more. But the point, so I saw on December 18th, I went out that night and I was like, I could see the planets, and I just got that inner knowing of like, this is it. This is your view. Like
Wow.
you're going to be, because a weather forecast too. It's like we had a storm coming through. It's going to be rainy and cloudy. So I was like, all right, sit with it. I was like, it's, as like a planet geek, I was like, I really just want to see it. But I had to like work through my layers of like disappointment or whatever. I was like, well, 2020 has been all about letting it go, right? Like you don't quite get what you thought you were going to get. Right. So I was like, okay, I really have to get to that. I can't just fake it. Like I just have to get to that Zen point of like, this is your moment. And you're going to see it again on Tuesday night. That was on Monday here. It was the conjunction.
Oh yeah.
You'll get clear weather again, and it's fine. Like you'll get the codes anyway. And I really talked myself down like on several times. I was like, it's fine. You won't get to see it. It's no big deal. And then, and I really did get there. So I was playing something with my daughter in the living room, and our living room windows face west. And like, it was like around 4:30 or something. And like, all of a sudden, this like golden light, like just came like shooting into the room. And I was like, what is happening? Like the whole thing just like lit up. And I was like, it's like giving me a window. And I like ran around. I was like, I'm going out. Like it was like, so I was like, I think there's going to be a parting of the clouds. And
Oh.
but like don't get too attached to it still. So I went to my usual spot, is like kind of possibly on someone else. Like I can park there for like 5 minutes, but I wanted to stay somewhere for like 45 minutes. So I had to find another spot. So I went to this place that's a golf course, but it has like a lot of McMansion-y things, you know, along the golf course screens. And I was parked there, like across the street from someone, like on the golf greens, but across from this like super nice fancy house. In my car, like chilling. And then this pickup truck came up behind me and had its like, you know, running lights or whatever on. And I was like, oh, this is golf course security. They're probably gonna like move me along. You know, that's what, like my vibe. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna sit here. It's like, and instead, this like hippie dad and his two adult daughters, who must have been in their mid to late 20s or maybe home from college, come pouring out of the pickup truck, and they set up two telescopes like
Wow.
behind my car. And I got out of my car and I was like, oh, you're one of us. Like you're one.
Oh, wow.
So I had this super sweet exchange. They were from a few towns away. We both just ended up on this random, you know, like vista.
Wow.
And I was sort of standing there like, I hope he asked me to see his telescopes. I hope he had, you know, like I was like not, you know, in like the land of like stay away from people because they might breathe on you. You know, I was like, can people be nice to each other? With this
Yes.
pandemic, we still can. So we were just chatting a little, and he's like, well, do you want to come see? And I was like, yeah. And so I get to see it through a telescope. Not only did I get to see it, but I get to like see it through a telescope, and the moon alignments. So Jupiter was centered, but its moons, I'm going to draw it out too. I just haven't had a chance with the family holiday spur. But there was like 3 moons here and another moon here. Ganymede, I think. It was like Io, Callista, Ganymede, and that's 4. Like they were just like in, I was like, oh, Jupiter's like, we're having this experience on Earth, but like Jupiter is having an alignment of its own with its moons. And then like Saturn was right there. Anyway, it was just this really magical, like, oh, you know, when you have one of those like high vibe, like, oh, the world's a good place and everything aligns the way it's supposed to.
So magical, Julie.
So the conjunction for me was very much, and I called my husband, like, you got to get down here with binoculars, you know, like, because I had burst out of my house. I didn't even bring our binoculars, which I usually use. I just like, or like warm clothes. It was just like, I got to go see it.
That's awesome.
And it worked. It was great. It was really beautiful, but it had like this total, like that was my Christmas morning, if you will, you know, my magical encounter for the solstice, and
Beautiful.
fun. But
That's
then
the magic of detachment, huh? The magic of
yeah,
detachment.
like really like
Happen.
had to get all the way to that place, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have stories like that, right? Does it dovetail right in?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's that?
The time we can go back and forth, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. So I'm looking at my notes here. There's a lot that I want to share, you know, just based on what we're experiencing right now with you all, to facilitate, what's the word to say, a more neutral or just observing, pure present experience instead of like, what the fuck's going on? Or, you know, like, how do I deal with this? Because the less thinking we can do, the more perceiving we can do, you know, from here, and really have more fun in this mad adventure that we're having right now. So first I want to share my experience of a complete template wipe. So Lisa Transcendence Brown is how me and Julie met, and we're in her community, her beautiful Evolving Consciousness Together community. And she says so often that, you know, the human mind, the human ego has an idea, a concept of what something would look like, but on the quantum realms, it's kind of beyond our conceiving until after the fact. And so I'll try to make this brief, but essentially I was invited in early November to move to Ecuador. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of great codes in South America. Maybe it would be, more economical for me and my daughter to live there. And I'm an adventuresome person. I was like, yeah, I'm down for something new. At that point, Southern California was really beginning to feel very stifling, and it was very difficult for me to disconnect from different layers of the heart grid. So I thought, yeah, fuck it. Like, let's do something new. So I spent 6 weeks preparing to relocate and like applying for a visa. I mean, all of this stuff, finding a new place to live. I even prepared my cats to come with us on the plane. I mean, so much. And then I was noticing as we were getting closer to departure, like just things. I was just noticing things like, oh, that's interesting. Like, and just realizing like a lot that's going on there is very similar to everywhere. That you can't run away from COVID right now. You can't run away from the awakening process of the masses um, doing their thing. So I took that. I was like, okay, well, that's interesting, but I still would like to maybe, try a new place. And I really love the energies of South America, the Mayans, the Incas. I mean, so much beautiful coding. I started to have these dragons come like out of the mountains. They're visiting me like when I was making chocolate for the holidays. So there's a lot of cool overlapping, the eagle and the condor, a lot of cool stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm totally down. Um, and then a few days beforehand, it became very evident. Oh, what you got there?
This one just fell. It made that noise. Was this on Dhara
Oh
knocking
my
into
God,
the dragon?
who is that?
The Andara that came here to be with us. But anyway, just like
That's
fell off
amazing.
its perch and rolled around. So it
Oh
wanted to.
my God, hello. Thank you for joining us. Those are great codes. Oh my gosh. So what ended up happening was we got landlocked. We got landlocked due to the even more stringent lockdown that was put in place just a few days before we were supposed to depart. And my immediate thinking was, okay, well, as long as we know where we're going to live, because I'd given up my apartment, everything. I gave up everything.
I mean, landlocked. You mean just like the state mandated back, like
Um, because of the lockdowns, they made it even harder to get like documentation and certain things that you would need. So like ordinarily, you could get an emergency passport with proof of your itinerary. None of that was happening. And so the first thing I felt was like, oh, I'm actually really relieved because I was starting to feel like, maybe this place won't be as great as I thought. I don't know. And so then I just immediately called the leasing office here where our apartment is, and everything was just boom, boom, boom. You're right back in, you get your old storage unit back, da, da, da. So what I realized in all of this was that my human ego, lower, like not lower, but you know what I'm saying, the aspects of me that were entrenched in the systems of domination and control in this stuff that was kind of feeling like I couldn't breathe, I couldn't talk, like all of that stuff. I had to literally think that I was moving in my mind, my linear mind, so that I could completely disembody, completely just unlock, unplug. I'm seeing like all the cords just boop, away from this, so that then I could come back and do my mission as a grid worker, as a light being, all of the code keeper, all of these things. And so what I want to share with this is that sometimes we think we're supposed to move. And I remember months before hearing the song Exodus, so much.
that song played for me like a lot in December.
So I thought it meant a literal move, and I was down. I'm an adventuresome person. I mean, I speak Spanish. Like there were all these things. I was like, sure, okay. But it wasn't. It was a dimensional shift. So I literally had to pack up my whole life and prepare and completely disconnect on all levels beyond my conception, for me to then just plug right back in here, a little lighthouse here, same apartment and everything, but everything is completely regridded and a whole new frequency and a whole new sense of refreshment as well. So I just want to share that with you guys. Lisa Brown has said this over and over again. It's not always what you think. It doesn't always look like what you're thinking, and then you embody it after the fact, and then you understand like what the fuck just happened, and it's exciting. So that's a big one I want to share with everyone, is that this exodus could be literal. It could very well with these energies. Maybe you do need to go somewhere else. I was feeling not supported where I was as a light worker and all of these things. And so I thought, okay, I'll leave and I'll go somewhere else that feels more supportive. But that enabled me to recreate a whole new grid work from within. So I was just excited to share that. It was a wild experience.
A lot more like, well, not that we have to compare, but the level of letting go of like that kind of move is like
Yeah.
compared to like seeing a couple dots in the sky. Like
Oh,
because
no, no,
they're
it's the
similar.
same thing. It's the
They're
same
like
thing.
that's why I popped over it. I wanted you to share that story at that moment
Oh,
because it was
thank
like
you.
that similar, like, you have these like soul callings or aspirations or like things that draw you, right?
Yes.
And it's like, how do you keep it clean and clear without any attachment to outcome or attachment to what it's going to look like, or
Yeah.
because it's I keep using this term with people, like it's like a kaleidoscope, because things are so, because of all that, like we were talking about the codes coming in, it's like things are shifting, things always do, like we're in the quantum field. So what's true this moment and 30 seconds from now and a minute from now and tomorrow and yesterday, like it's just like everything's, and your every action, your every thought, your every word
Yes.
spins the kaleidoscope. So you really are like creating your reality with everything that you do and think and experience. And so it's like
Absolutely.
you can't cast forward
Mm-mm.
necessarily.
No.
If
And,
anything's
and
coming.
that fluidity is so important for everyone to start to embrace that fluidity, the formless realms, right? The
Mhm.
formless realms of how can we master this? And I feel like this experience has given me a great deal of intel to expand on that topic of working with the formless realms, because you might have a few little pieces, and you're like, okay, and like you say, surrendering, like detaching. I mean, I even got rid of my car. So then it's like, okay, well, we know where we're going to live. We're going to live right where we have been, but we're going to redo the whole space. We know where my daughter's going to go to school, same wonderful place, of community, but I didn't have a car. So I had to just, okay, fuck it, I don't have a car, and now I have my dream car. For 12 years I wanted a Prius. Now
That's
I've got
also,
a really.
when you're expanding and like your light body vehicle, like our cars really stand in, our vehicles stand in for our, oops, sorry. I got
Yes.
so excited. I hit my computer, but
Yay.
our vehicles really stand in for that. But I've heard that from a lot of other grid workers and people, like when you're going through a massive upgrade, like your vehicle changes to reflect your light body vehicle.
Absolutely. And so now I have a
What kind of
silver.
cars you get?
I have a silver Prius, and it's like, okay, here's my little light ship, And so I want to get the license plate cover that says like my other vehicle is my Merkaba to fuck with people here in Southern California.
Does that exist in Southern California? I haven't seen one of those in Massachusetts. Is that a thing? Or are you
No,
gonna make it
I'm
up?
gonna make it. I'm gonna make my own.
Oh,
Yeah.
give me one. That's awesome.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm like a
So
similar geeky way. Like I have a Subaru, but I'm like so
awesome.
much like a cat. Like I love the Palladian coating that comes with the Subaru car.
Me
So
too. Yeah, that is so neat. That is so neat. Okay, well, what else? What else do you
like
got?
go back to that. So like I was talking about that arrow, like the attention field of just December for me was just like in that like galactic center, the conjunction. It was like all coding towards that. And so like for me, um, what I'm working on now, like so that these alignment dates happen, and the alignment dates are less, you can connect into galactic center energy anytime. It doesn't have to, you don't have to wait till December 18th, right? But these calendar days or these like alignment dates are ways to like pique the human interest and like send our, it's like collective attention gets too.
Yes.
It's like for me, like some, people from all over my life were like, oh, did you hear about this planetary, like people, like it was like, I was like so cool to me, who's like someone who spends a lot of time focusing that way on any day. It's like, oh, it's getting I just could have noticed that, like it's coming in like the normal newspapers and like normal, like the
Hmm.
regular world of people that might not pay attention to these things are turning their eyes up. It's like when there's a
Beautiful.
great eclipse.
Yeah.
So
And you wrote a great article on that, by the way. The article really with the center, the Galactic Center. Sorry, I can't think. I'm like, what? It was really wonderful. So we'll link that, you guys, because the article is great and it's very activating, very succinct. And I read it and I was like, yeah, cool. That's exactly. I wanted that roller coaster ride to absorb that, and it's beautiful. So we'll put
yeah.
that in there.
So it's interesting, like what I'll cast forward, and maybe we'll talk about this when we do our January convo. It's like, so the planets come together, Jupiter and Saturn, but then it's not like, oh, then now it's done, right? Like there's a lot more that's coming with it too. So I've been paying attention to like, so basically Jupiter's like past Saturn in the sky, but there's a lot of planetary activity. Um, so since we're like talking about our mentors and like how we meet, and so too, like we both attended a Sandra Walter webinar. Like we have these, master instructors or mentors in the grid work field, right? So she heard November one was talking about, she said something like there's a bunch of grid workers have been paying attention to the planets.
Yeah.
2020. And I had this like, oh yeah, me, I'm one of those.
I thought of you too. I was like, that's Julie.
But it's just her, like, she just had a few sentences about that. But it was, say this well, there's like a way that, we think a lot about Earth and Earth's ascension and Earth like moving into a more crystalline form, but it's our whole solar system.
Absolutely.
Like ascension really is like our solar system or our sun star moving into an area of space that's more light encoded, and it's like the photon belt and all that. Like we get a lot more photonic light, and we're in a massive plasma stream. And like when we talk about codes coming in, they're not just like, I want to say fictitious. They're not just like something we imagine. They're like literal pieces of stardust like coming our way. Like you had a post about that a couple of days ago on Facebook or whatever. It was yesterday. But that like, it's like tangible activity, but it's fun to like pop our viewpoint wider than just our planet. Think about like how this ascension thing is affecting the other planets in the solar system too. And so what I feel like what they're doing, like when the planets like conjunct or come together, we started this talking about code exchange. It's like Jupiter and Saturn just had this massive code exchange from our vantage point. They weren't really anywhere near each other or any closer. It's all just from like our vista,
right.
Like where they come into our sky, but like that's our field, right? But the geometries and the lineups of the planets with each other. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of things, and I'm going to write up I'm working on it. Like this, like January planetary alignments are like Mercury goes through and codes with, Mercury's like so close to the sun, it's always kind of bebopping back and forth around the sun. But Mercury goes through and like it aligns with Saturn, it aligns with Jupiter, it aligns with the sun, and then sun comes through and aligns. Like there's this whole corridor of the Jupiter Saturn stuff, like still ongoing through this month.
What I'm getting is Uranus. Uranus has been reaching out, and so I'm just listening and seeing, the Uranus energy, which is exciting. I'll have more on that when it's just
so when the eclipse on the 14th sort of pinged a bunch of things. So a lot of people probably know this, but we had a total solar eclipse in August of 2017.
Yeah.
That through basically like from the coast of Oregon, like all the way to South Carolina.
Yeah.
And there's another one in 2024, April 8th, that moves from Mexico, like up to like Montreal.
Wow.
Like, North America. So there's the great eclipse, they cross in the middle.
Interesting.
And the place where they cross is in Southern Illinois. And there's a lot to talk about that, but that's been like on my radar for quite a while.
Wow, I love that. Okay.
And one night, things just happen. Like when you're working with the energy grids, like you get pings or like, attention grabbers from all different places. So one night I kind of woke up and I was like, what's going on? And I could feel like sometimes when I work a lot with storms and weather patterns.
Oh, I have something to say on that. I'm glad you said that. Okay. Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night when I just like had my iPad nearby and I like looked on the radar. I was like, what's going on? I felt like it was some weathery thing. And I have the picture of it. Maybe I'll post it underneath too, there was this front that went all the way from like Texas, like past San Antonio, like straight up. And I was like, oh, that storm front line is the same as the eclipse line.
Wow.
Like, oh, we're preparing now. Like it just like I got this like prepare now for the 2024 eclipse.
Wow, beautiful.
Right? Whatever that means.
Okay.
But then you go and do research or you read different things or you look at things or you just tune into the energy. And so I've been doing a lot this week of kind of preparing that pathway.
Wow, how exciting, Julie.
There's some sites there. I was like, I can't wait to like, I'm not leaving my house a lot and driving around the country right now. But someday I'll get to it. But it's like, it's not even necessary too. Like you can kind of visit sites from home.
Wow.
But that like little pings of like weather. What was your weather thing? What was your weather ping?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this was so exciting. So we had some clouds come in Christmas Eve. And Ananda and I got, we get all elemental with that because in Southern California, there's less rain and
Yeah.
there has been a lot less control of the weather now, which is very exciting because you can feel that excitement in the elementals. You can feel they're less constricted or constrained. And so Ananda and I do our little, weather witching, if you will, the weather gridding, where we'll say, oh my gosh, we look up at the clouds and just, oh, we would love to hear you because you're just so musical. Like we go full sensory experience and like, the earth is thirsty, like we really get into it and just say, if it's a win-win and, highest involved for everyone here, highest integrity for all involved, sorry. Um, then we would love to have you. And so I came up with like, instead of rain, rain, go away, we say, rain, rain, come and play, come and stay today, hooray. And that's our little thing, because we get so little of it. And so same as you, would love to play with you, but we're detached. 11/11, Christmas Eve, it rained. And it was so wonderful. And then, so we had Christmas Day and then the day after Christmas, and then 2 days after Christmas, it rained again and we had a full on storm. So this is where Uranus reminded me and you reminded me of the storm element. And this is a video and article I've got to write to really go more in depth on. But the storm element, you can feel that and it like brings in Tesla. You can feel that electricity in the air of like in California, because we get so little rain, when it rains, it's so palpable, the shift, of like all the energy. And I'm sorry, an alarm is going off. This is like my call to prayer alarm. So sorry, one sec.
Yeah, I lived in California for a bit, and I know that feeling of like when the rains come, it's like, oh.
Oh, it's just so what I got from that was so we had hail that night in the middle of the night, and we had thunder and lightning. I mean, so much electricity, and then quite a bit of really heavy rain. We went out and we walked in it because we love to hear it, and feel it, and just it's like you're getting kissed from heaven, to have that experience. And but what I was so high that day, and it was like the storm element, and like tying that into the formless realms because I feel like that's really a great way to kind of personify the formless realms is that we've got to hold, something. You hold a little something while you're just, in this like soup, so that because it could be disorienting if you don't have like what's my intention, even if it's like a really basic intention. So anyway, yeah, I have to go a lot more in depth on that as I continue to kind of digest it. But the storm element, you guys, for those of you who have more weather activity, like just tune into that, like, whoa, creative surges, like, oh.
Interesting. I thank you for. I forgot about that piece, but we had a massive thing on Christmas Eve into Christmas morning too. A snow, but it was we would normally it would be snow here, but it got up to like 50, 60 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was
Wow.
a rain situation, but it was like 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds. And like, it was like, everybody was like, well, they're expecting widespread power outages and, like trees down. And like, we're
Oh,
gifted with storms all the time here, especially
yeah.
like up in like things just kind of like washed across the country and then they move. But it's interesting to work with storms is really to work with the water element and the emotional body of the collective. Like you can feel things come on the water, from the heart grid of the humans that are in the whole path of things. So it can be quite heavy or immense or different thing. Impactful would be a better word because
Yeah.
heavy implies it's bad, right? It's just like there's a lot of layers to move through. But yeah, that Christmas Eve into Christmas morning, it's interesting you got that here because we had like wind and lightning and thunder and like all this and it was like prepare like you're getting all these alerts like if you're cooking things prepare not to have your stove and like they were
Oh,
really
wow.
lots of power outages which
Oh
is
my God.
a
Okay.
good reset in itself,
Mhm.
right? When the electric grids go down, that's when grid workers are like, ooh, we can like
Uh,
tinker behind the scenes.
oh,
Yeah,
wow.
we burst over here too. And then
So
since
magical.
then, have you been? So I've been really called to like Orion and Sirius have been like they're up in the evening hour, like at the 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11. And so on New Year's Eve, I think between like 11 p.m. and midnight, some iteration of my family we were like out on the lawn for most of that time. You know, we had to go inside. It was like 12 degrees out. We had to go
Oh
in and
my
get sun
gosh.
here and there. Like,
Wow.
but it was fun to like, I'm like, what do you want to do for New Year's? I'm like, play with Orion and Sirius and like hang out.
Wow, wonderful.
And we watched Soul. Have you guys watched Soul yet?
No,
No?
it's on the bucket list though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So like what's interesting is I'm getting a lot of the same hmm, codes, impressions, imprints that started in at the end of the year, and they're going more deeply. But what I'm really receiving the most pings on, if you will, is this kind of this elemental layering up. So, like an example, a visual example would be, you're outside and the sun is, projecting all the light codes, but it's coming through the leaves on the trees. So there's the codes of the sun intermingling with the tree, whatever kind of tree being it is, and the leaves, and there's colors going on, or the sun reflecting on the water in a little like creek that we have. So it's like this intermingling of elementals. Very interesting. So that's just what I've been really like, oh gosh, look at that, and like taking that in. And I think that for me it's like it's more the local, meaning the physical environment, the elementals, and how they translate to our own physicality and our beingness. So that's really, and I had some notes on it that were a little bit better explained here, but um, I wrote down here like nature elemental codes. I feel like that move dimensionally, the template wipe, that's what enabled me to root in more deeply and connect to other layers of the heart grid um, that were more nourishing again. And so for me, a great deal of that nourishment comes from the land itself, all the different elemental beings and the birds and everything. And so
Oh,
what I've,
the birds are off the charts right now.
oh, that's so great. um,
Birds
but
everywhere. Birds, 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 birds.
oh, their codes are so beautiful. Their songs, it's like, oh my gosh, you just feel it right in your heart. Um, but what I keep getting is for me, is holding New Earth here through the body. And really, so the gateway for me is like I've become this, or I have always been, and it progressively gets more physically challenging with these light codes. Like yesterday was really a lot. Yesterday, guys, the Schumann was 450 for a few hours. And Ananda and I and our cats were just, this is the temple, here is the bedroom, right? So we were just here, like laying and resting and incorporating. But what I've been getting on in terms of the collectives through my own experience is really bringing the focus to the internal grid work, our neurology, everything, to really be able to embody a whole new level of the light codes, of the electricity, the cosmic rain. So I'm getting these rewrites to embody higher light consciousness. Um, and what I got today, the words I got today was, so we're opening the stargates or the portals of higher dimensional existence and experience in the mundane. And therefore there is no longer a mundane, because everything you're doing, like the water you're drinking is activating the food. There's so much information. And then like Julie was saying so awesomely earlier, when we get together and we have what we're holding, then it just really, boom, it's like two neutrinos, boom, colliding. And then the topics you're both bringing to the table expand even more, and it's wonderful. So that's really what I'm getting.
Like I have two things you popped in when you talked about the cosmic rain or the. I had also been some of the intel that came through for me about the Jupiter and Saturn is that on Jupiter and Saturn it rains diamonds,
Yeah.
like diamond crystals.
God.
Like
That's so
like
great.
that was like a big, like you get these pieces of info, like you're supposed to, not supposed to, the highest alignment is to move them through your field or embody them, or like what do you do with that piece of info? And I was like, oh, it's like diamond. But for me it went back to like this year has been a lot of diamond light body or the octahedron
Okay.
action. And I was like, oh, it's like this something about the conjunction, the Jupiter Saturn thing was like a lot of diamond light code, but like diamond rain.
Okay, I love that. I love that you're saying that, because I had one experience where I was like, oh, the diamond light code. So I was like totally laid up. This was the 1212. And I had like a surge of the God consciousness come through where I really let some people know, like, this is not acceptable to me. It was a very strong energy coming through and establishing boundaries of like what is acceptable in my experience. So that was really strong. And then I was just laid up literally here in bed, and like I let the window here, the sun comes through perfectly onto the bed, thank goodness, because this is the light ship where we regenerate, and receive intel. And so I'm laying there, and I had this experience, my eyes are closed when I'm really out of it. In these pancake moments, I just lay there and I try to doze, or I just have visuals. And I had this experience where I just poof, just dissolved into like a cloud, but it was made of diamonds with the rainbow code shining through. So I just dissolved into diamond dust, and I put a post on that just to see what other people would think of that. And I thought, oh, diamond codes. Okay, cool. So that was really, really neat. And I mean, I have to write about it. I don't know. It was just a cool experience. I still have to unpack it, I think. But that was fun for the 1212 to just dissolve into diamond dust. I mean, that was the first.
Rainbow diamond dust? That's pretty
Yeah,
fantastic.
it was pretty neat, So I don't know. So I thank you for sharing that, because I was like, oh, was anyone else getting any diamond stuff? And it's like when you're in these integration periods, I don't even research, because I'm just like, I mean, I can't like
Yeah, yeah.
can't even decide what to eat, It's like, ooh.
And the other thing you pinged on me is the water, the elemental activity. So yeah, I told you we had that big storm Christmas Eve into Christmas morning, and then I was like with my kids and whatever. Like Christmas, I didn't have a lot of like free go play in the grid work field.
Yeah, yeah.
But lovely in where we were. But then in the night, that evening or the next day, I was like, I gotta get out, because we got so much. I think we got 4 inches of rain in like that day. Like, so
Wow.
that the water table, this is like even sad to say to my friends in Southern Cali, but it's okay. We're like
Okay.
excess. Like the rivers were like, it was like, our phones were blowing up with like river flood stage, river alerts, and like the water table was like,
Wow.
so the waterfalls and all the tributaries and the streams. When that happens, it's a really big, um, like clearing. Like the water, just like if you think of like the riverbank, like the water gets to places it doesn't usually get, and like
Mhm.
washes a lot of trash and debris and whatever downstream. But it had this like, and then because it was so cold, we don't usually necessarily get lots of rain in December. Often it
Okay.
falls as snow here,
Right.
and like the crystal, what it makes like, and then that water like seeps back into the earth, but what it leaves is this like ice bed on everything, like where it's receded.
Okay.
And now like, so there's like ice coating all, like speaking of crystalline Elsa Frozen Wonderland,
Love
it's like but all the wetlands, like everything was just like pure saturated.
it.
Yeah.
That's the other day I had this visual of just the blue of the Arctic glaciers, like that beautiful kind of like frozen, and it looks just like a seafoam mandara, you
Mhm.
know? And so that was like coming in, and I was like, okay, glacial codes, cool, So I feel like you're having that right there in your area.
Yeah.
So
It's why it's
cool.
fun to like exchange for you and I to talk, because like we couldn't have much different landscapes.
Hmm.
We tried, like we're cross country and like the.
Well, so then the snow was really calling. And so I tried to make plans. And this was before I had a car. So I was like, okay, if I have a car, we're going to figure out how to go to the snow. And that's what's so special about where we are in Southern California is, like 2 hours you could go to different, so we found this wonderful spot. And one of the little girls that was with us, so the two girls that came with us and my daughter, they're from Michigan. So they're snow girls, they love the snow. And it was very healing for them to see it again because they miss that, cycle of magic every year. And the younger one was like, oh, I love to eat the snow. And she's just taken it and like a snow cone. And I was like, oh my God. So I did it with her, and I was looking on my gloves, and you can see how each droplet of water is, the perfect crystalline, just like your scarf, and the codes that came from that. I mean, oh my God, like I'm going to write an article about that, the snow codes and the water codes, because and so then that brings us to like, okay, well, everything, the water that we're drinking is just, cohesion, right, of droplets, right, that are hanging on to one another. So each droplet is a crystal. And I don't know, it just expanded more this crystalline existence that we have access to now. And it's like, so you don't need drugs or anything, because there's DMT and everything. Like I posted about that. I'm like, every like experience now is just so, loaded as we've freed our operating system to just be here. You're receiving so much. And yeah, it makes it really fun. But it's hard to keep up with it too. I'm like, there's so much I want to write and we're still receiving intel. So it's still not time. And I'm like, damn it.
Oh, it's so lovely to get to have these chats with you. It feels so
Yeah, thank you. It's so fun. I want to encourage everybody watching, thank you for being here with us. And I hope you're getting just a ton out of this. And just to think about what's presenting to you. This is what came through the other day is like, what's inviting me? What's inviting me right now? What's presenting itself in my sphere of consciousness, and like dive into it, have fun. It's all the portals everywhere and just see what you get,
Yeah, like a blade of grass, a crystal of snow, a snowflake,
Mhm.
you know,
The
every
Andara falling.
every trip to the store, every
Yeah.
down your street, like everything. It's
Yeah.
all there, right?
Yeah.
But
So
like
great.
what illuminates you from within? Like what gives you
Mhm.
that sparkle? What gives you that? And it's
Beautiful.
like it doesn't really matter what anyone chooses to work with. Like it's
Mm-mm.
beauty in everything, right?
Yeah, that's what's so cool.
Like playing
Um,
music or drawing something or walking or moving your body or and all those together or sitting quiet with your eyes closed for 3 days and just laying in bed, like all of it matters, right?
yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, just, if you can refrain from any judgment of what you're experiencing and try to pull back from that and come to neutrality and just see like what is presenting. Because once we can get neutral, it's like, wow, this is so magical. And then we can access more too, like we can, by not being contracted, right? And then we're open, like we can just take in more, like more porous, I guess is a good way to, you know. But I wanted to ask you, like, as we wrap up, like, is there anything, are there any classes, it may be too early, but like, is there anything you want to share that you're working on to promote right now?
Thank you. That's a sweet offer.
Mhm.
I am closer than ever to having my online school like operational.
All right, rock on.
Yeah, yeah. It's all
Okay,
just need a little more childcare.
okay, okay,
But I don't have it. It's still like percolating.
okay.
So we talked. Thank you for asking. But you
Beautiful.
can
Yes.
go to my website is innerspacehealing.org,
Okay.
and it's all will be on there in the next few weeks.
Beautiful. And these things they're not in any way crystallized into form yet, but they're things that have come through. I just want to share. So, a self-care through sacred movement for women class
Oh,
for the
nice.
women that are, still we're on lockdown, we're parents. Like, it's a beautiful sacred movement using AMBA, which is actually an elemental movement system that was channeled by a yoga teacher. It's really cool. So I've got that coming up. I'm finalizing that. And then I have two other things that came through the end of the year. One of them is an animal totem, full on working with the animal kingdoms, just having so much fun from a shamanic nature perspective. And that's, I'm sharing based on my experiences with all the different classes of kingdoms of animals. So I'm really excited about that one. And then galactic heritage, which is really about, discovering your ancestry and taking that to the next level. And what I really appreciate, Lisa Brown saying like, we're star seed, but then we want to keep graduating, right? We want to keep mastering, keep up leveling to star being. And what is that? How do we do that? So this again is all based on my own journey of finding my galactic heritage, how I did that through my own Terran. I call it the Terran, the Earth lineage, to start and go back, 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 back. And then what are we going to do with it? And I'm really excited about that one. So that's
Cool.
that's what I'm working on. They're just,
Well, if we're talking about what we're working on, then I'll share what I'm working.
yeah, yeah,
Like, you can sign up here, but so
yep.
I've been really working for myself. I've studied people that maybe don't know. I was a yoga teacher for 20 years and studied a lot of like body work, and I do a lot of that work. But the SOAS, like soul as and SOAS. So I work a lot with body balls, like kinesiology, like putting balls under spots in your body to roll around on and like be
They're
your
so
own body worker, be your own,
okay.
especially now in the age of like people aren't good. So I have and the SOAS to me is really like the place where the light body and the physical body meet and merge. I've studied a lot with Liz Cook. She wrote the SOAS book, and I've studied with her for years. But like incorporating
Wow.
into like a movement. And my other mentors is Ellen Staltenstall. She does body mind ball work. She's out of New York City.
Cool.
But I've now that everyone knows how to, but for me, I've really stopped attending or wanting to participate in, let's say this super respectfully, like an organized yoga class that someone else is telling you how to move your body. Like I
Same.
just want to light people up in order to do their own movement.
Same.
And
Yep.
it shouldn't necessarily be in a put your right foot, like it's that's like the next level for all of us. It's like, the codes are like, be your own yoga teacher, like be your own movement specialist.
Yep.
So I'm working on that, like like this title that's kicking around is like soul as, like working
Awesome.
at your own soul. But like the at this year, maybe a few people are like gripped in a little bit of like holding on energy, possibly because of global events.
Mm-hmm.
So like that has a lot of effect. Speaking of digestion, and so I have a SOAS sharing to come out.
Awesome. That sounds
And
fabulous.
the other big course I'm working on is sound codes. So in the Sanskrit language, in each letter of the Sanskrit alphabet, you can make it into a seed sound or a bija mantra. So the chakras, I have them right there.
They're all tunable. Everything's
Like so, teaching people the mantras and the bija mantras as really building with sound codes, building your light body or your ascension column, your light body with the sound codes. That's a class.
Oh my God.
And in general, just working with the light rays of creation too. So those are three main course things that I'm working on.
Beautiful. Yay, I'm so excited.
Ready, right?
Yeah, more to come, everybody. More to come. It's just the beginning.
Maybe we should call this like our December chat, and we should have another chat.
That sounds good. Yeah, that sounds good.
Alliance.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Pleasure to talk to you, Marissa, and
yeah, thank you.
Like me, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta gets my juices flowing. So thank you.
Thank you. Same. I'm so excited. It's like what a great way to start the day. Thank you. All right, everyone, take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Marissa. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Julie.